Okay.
Does not look like we have anyone in the waiting room right now, so feel free to kick it off, Craig, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everyone. This is Craig Miller, General Manager at Western Municipal Water District. I'd like to welcome everyone to our customer information session. Happy Earth Day to everyone. Special day in the water industry. We love Earth Day. We're going to go ahead and start this meeting. This is the Western Municipal Water District Special Board Meeting, customer information sessions for water and sewer rate adjustments. For those members of the public that don't understand why we're treating this as a board meeting, we had several requests from our board members to attend this evening in order to be in compliance with the Brown Act that forces us to notice it as a public meeting. There won't be any actions taken tonight, but it allows all of our board members to be here and hear the discussion and participate in the discussion. So we'll kick off the meeting at 6 p.m. on April 22nd. Tammy, could you please read our coronavirus protocols in for our board meetings? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. In an effort to protect public health and prevent the spread of COVID-19, and in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, the public may view this board meeting virtually via Zoom, as there will be no public location for attending in person. This Zoom meeting will be recorded and available to view after the conclusion of today's meeting on Western's website at WMWD.com. As stated on the agenda, members of the public who wish to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the district or any item on the agenda may make comments virtually or by submitting comments on the district's website. There will be several opportunities during today's customer information session to ask questions or to make public comments. Written comments received before 4:30 p.m. April 21st, 2021 will be made part of the board meeting record. For those participating in the Zoom virtual meeting who wish to provide public comments, please indicate such by using the raise hand feature, which may be accessed by opening the participant list and clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of the list. For those participating by telephone who wish to provide public comment, you may do so by pressing *6 to unmute yourself. If there is more than one caller, you will be identified and called on one at a time. Any public comment will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. I will now take roll call for the board meeting. Due to the complexity of conducting this meeting by Zoom and telephonically, I will not be taking roll call for staff members or the public at this time. Director Galliano. Director Risby.
Good evening, I'm here.
Thank you. Director Gardner.
I am here also.
Thank you. Director Torres.
Good evening, I'm here.
Good evening. President Dinstead.
Good evening. I am present. Thank you very much.
Thank you. President Dinstead, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Do appreciate that. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Western Municipal Water District's special session to talk about the up and coming meeting for the rate adjustment. We do appreciate your attendance this evening, and we do appreciate the fact that today is Earth Day. So we hope everybody was able to celebrate that with Mother Earth. At this time, we'll go ahead and move into public comments. Public comments are for any item which is not currently posted on our agenda this evening and is within the jurisdiction of this agency and this body to act upon. Madam Secretary, is there anyone who wishes to speak under public comment this evening?
President Dinstead, I do not see any hands raised. I did receive 2 public comments yesterday that were provided to the board prior to this morning and this evening's meeting. If the public wishes to view those comments, they may contact me at boardsecretary@WMWD.com. and I'll be happy to share them with them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Can
Okay,
they be
folks,
read
there
out
will be.
loud for our pleasure, please?
Yes, just one moment. The first comment was received by Patricia Mitchell. The comment states, I cannot attend the Zoom workshop on the 22nd or 28th and would like to voice our objection to the monthly rate hike. To propose the increase at this time is very, very bad timing on the water district's part. Reasons are many, but primarily pandemic, job loss, and income loss. Although the increase is small, every increase counts. It is our feeling the water company overcharges as it is by using the tier system. October is one of the hottest months of the years, yet we are billed as if it is the rainiest. Our water invoice averages $250 per month, yet in October it was an outstanding $700 with no leaks. The second message was received by Jennifer, no last name. It stated, I am in protest of an increase in water rates. Western municipal rates are already higher than the city of Riverside and other surrounding agencies. And that is the end of the comment.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll go ahead, folks. This is a workshop and an informational session. So staff will be going ahead and doing a presentation this evening. There will be a number of opportunities for you to be able to ask questions. We do ask that you put your questions in the chat box and we can certainly circle back to those. And there will be a segment at the end of the presentation to allow you for those comments to ask your questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and start off with the presentation, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much. Now that we've got the processional part of that behind us, let's get to the heart of what we're up to tonight. And this is a public information session for our customers. We're going to talk about retail water and sewer rate adjustment proposals. This isn't the most fun thing that we do here at Western. No one looks forward to presenting on rate increases. Nobody likes rate increases. I don't like rate increases when my water provider proposes rate increases, but we do have a lot of increasing costs and we do have to maintain the agency as a business. And when costs go up, we have to react. So with that, let's get going on the session.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us this evening to really learn more about Western's retail water and sewer rate adjustment proposal and how this is really going to affect your bill in the coming months and years. My name is Shannon Singler, and I will moderate today's discussion. We have a really full agenda, and I want to assure our audience members that you will have an opportunity to engage in an open discussion with subject matter experts regarding the rate adjustment. Our hope is really just to answer your questions and address any concerns you may have to help you feel more informed. We'll also run through how you can continue to be a part of the decision-making process and what you can expect in the future. So I'd like to introduce the panelist team that will be answering your questions throughout today's session. Craig Miller, whom you've already met, is Western's General Manager. Tim Barr is the Deputy General Manager. We have Kevin Mascaro, Finance Director, and Sarah McDonald oversees the organization's strategic communications and outreach. And Daisy Benuelos is Western's financial analyst who often works behind the scenes crunching those numbers. Again, you'll have a chance to hear from each team member during the presentation, and then again, they'll address any questions you may have throughout the discussion. So before we get started, I just want to run through some housekeeping topics just to ensure everyone gets the most out of today's session. We will automatically mute all attendees just to cut down on that background noise. But during the panel discussion, if you'd like to speak on camera, you can simply switch on your camera and your mic so you can be heard and seen. But if you don't want to be on camera during this portion of the discussion, that's really okay too. Attendees can also type their questions into the Zoom chat bar, which has previously been mentioned, and then we will present your questions to the panel for discussion. While we understand this is a virtual meeting, our goal here is to make sure that attendees feel heard and can provide opinions and insight during the discussion. So just so everybody knows, the meeting is also going to be recorded and then will be made available on the Western website at the conclusion of this evening's session. So let's go through the agenda and just get you guys familiar with how we want this evening to run. First, we're going to use a polling question just to determine what attendees feel is the most important topics to cover, which will help to guide the panel discussion. Second, the Western team will go through a presentation highlighting the adjustment proposal and then your role in the rate process. And then we'll hop into the panel discussion with our subject matter experts, where you'll have an opportunity to get your questions answered. And then we'll add any wrap-up questions that you may have and then close of the meeting. So let's get started with a poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll for you. So this poll, out of the 5 questions listed on your screen, please pick your top 3 questions you'd like to be addressed. When we move to the panel discussion portion of the meeting, we'll address these questions to help you better understand the rate process. So why is a rate increase needed at this time? How much will my monthly bill increase? How does Western spend the money they already collect? And why do we need to pay more? Why are Western's water rates higher than other water utilities? And what is Western doing to control costs internally? So I'll give everybody just 20 or 30 seconds just to answer the poll to the best of your ability, and then we can close the poll and I'll be happy to share those answers with everybody. But again, this will guide our discussion for later in the presentation. Few more seconds. It looks like we have almost 100% of everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and I will share those results. So the highest rated question is, why are Western's water rates higher than other water utilities? While we'll do our best to answer all of these questions, we'll kick off today's discussion with this question right out of the gate. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Craig Miller, and we're going to get started.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Can we roll through the first slide? So we'll answer that question after we go through the presentation. Is that the plan, Shannon?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's get this started with the need for a rate adjustment. So this is really, really important, and I've already touched on it a little bit, but let's roll to the next slide. There's some very important cost drivers, and as a water provider and a sewer provider, we have to acquire water. The cost to acquire that water continues to rise. For Western, we were formed to import water into this region. We were formed in the 50s to import water because there wasn't enough groundwater and local water resources to provide our service area. So we have imported water costs. So those costs continue to rise. Our imported water comes from Metropolitan Water District. Metropolitan raised rates 3% in January. They're raising them 4% next January and 5% the following January, with a long-term projection of 5% rate increases. So 60% of our water comes from Metropolitan, and those costs continue to go up. And so we have to match that. On the energy side, we're all aware of the challenges the energy industry has had with wildfires. They've been what they call hardening their system. That means they've been changing their wires and putting breakers in and things to prevent wildfires. Well, we all as customers, and Western's an energy customer just like you all are at home, those costs are going up, and we share in those cost increases just like homeowners do. And we've been fairly optimistic about those cost increases. I've heard as much as 15 to 18% cost increases. So we use a lot of energy here to move water around. So, you know, we have to account for those costs. Then on the operations and maintenance side, we have growing costs to operate our system. We have to buy chemicals. We have to buy parts and pieces. All those costs continue to go up, and we have staffing costs that are included in that continue to rise and benefits continue to rise. And then the fourth box is regulatory requirements. And these are those things where, we get new water quality standards and we have to then change treatment processes to meet those regulatory standards, or just go and monitor for some additional constituents that cost us a lot of money to monitor. We do over 30,000 samples of our system every single year for water quality to assure that we produce safe, reliable water all the time. And every time a new constituent comes up, that's additional cost. And it's not just water, it's on the sewer side, it's the sampling, it's the processing. It's also on the air quality side. AQMD gives us requirements that we have to abide by. So all those are rising costs, and they really are what are driving this whole rate adjustment that's necessary. Let's go to the next slide. So this is really important. We hear this all the time. We hear this on social media all the time. Western is a public agency. Western does not make a profit. There's no profit motivation. We hear on social media that we're doing this to make more money. We don't have any shareholders. There's nowhere to send profits. Everything that we collect is to provide service, either water service or sewer service. So it goes right back in. By law, we're not allowed to charge anything extra. We are audited. We have to conform to all the financial policies that the state's put in place and that we've put in place as an agency. And so there is no profit. All of the costs that are incurred by our customers are to provide service. And that's all there is to it. We hear it all the time. It's just not the truth. So I wanted to make sure we made that point here tonight. Next slide. Like I was saying, our costs increasing. It may surprise you to see that 49% of our costs that we incur are outside of our control. So we have no part in trying to do any sort of cost containment. And this is for water and energy. We're purchasing water from other people. That cost is set for us. We don't get to set it. So there is really no opportunity for us to do any cost control measures on half of the costs that we incur, and we have to pass on to customers. Next slide. So a lot of what we do revolves around our system, the pipes and the pumps and everything that we have to maintain. There's a lot of cost in that. So you have to acquire the water drops themselves, but then our system moves that water around, and moving water is what is so expensive. So where does our water come from? We get this question a lot too. So I love this chart because it's a really good depiction of where our water comes from. People don't generally understand that. And I understand that they don't understand it because most water districts have a different story. So for Western, we were created to import water into the region. So we import water from Lake Oroville in Northern California. So as it rains and snows in the mountains, that falls into Lake Oroville and it's released into the State Water Project. When you drive down the 5 freeway heading towards San Francisco, you bypass the State Water Project. You see it many, many times. That's our water flowing towards us, and then it's pumped up over the mountains, and it goes to the Mills treatment plant up on Alessandro in Mission Grove. It's great quality of water, some of the best water. It's snowmelt, excellent quality of water, but it costs quite a bit to get it here. But included in that investment in that water, and you really should think of it as an investment in that water, is a lot of things. So they are providing excellent water quality and excellent treatment and drought protection. The reason we got through the last drought years ago was because of the enormous amount of water that Metropolitan had stored for all of us here in Southern California, all of their customers, and we're one of their customers, so that when the drought hit, we had water stored. And they've done that again. So you're hearing stories about drought and cutbacks and all that. Metropolitan has 3.2 million acre feet in storage in preparation for a dry period, which we're starting to enter, and we'll see how it goes next year. But that storage is what keeps us from having water rationing here in Riverside, where it's 100 degrees all summer long, and we live up on a rock, up on a hill, and it's very dry, and we don't have to curtail people's water because we have all made this investment in this fabulous system that can move water from Northern California. Now, that's not the only place we get water. We have local water sources too. So at the bottom of the chart, you see the Victoria Recharge Basin that captures local stormwater, puts it into the ground. It's pumped out by our Arlington desalter, and then it's moved through a Sterling pump station, and it's blended in our system with the other water from Northern California. And then it's also blended with a third source. So we have an agreement with Riverside Public Utilities, and we acquire some of their surplus groundwater. So they're very fortunate. They have groundwater right under their feet in Riverside. And when they have some surplus, they market that, and we acquire that from them. So we serve that to our customers also. So those blended sources all come to your home. That's where your water comes from. But then we also handle the back end of the water side, and we handle your sewage too. So 200 miles of sewer pipelines to take sewage out of your house and treat it and discharge it. 700 miles of imported water pipeline before it even gets to us. And then once it gets in our system, we have to maintain 500 miles of pipeline, pump stations, valves, reservoirs, all that stuff. There's a big cost in doing that. So you'll hear customers ask us, well, my water usage is really low, but I pay all these fees. Well, the fees are what's paying for all this infrastructure. It's not that we're just charging you fees to make money. It's going to all of this infrastructure that not only we maintain, but Metropolitan has to maintain, and the state Department of Water Resources has to maintain it. Those are all incorporated into these costs that we pay as customers. Next slide. So I talked a lot about our source supply. So here it is, very graphical. Imported water, 56%, that's coming from Northern California. Local water, 40%. Now, keep in mind, different water districts have different local water mixes, and we have a different local water story than you'll hear from someone like RPU or from Lake Elsinore or from Eastern. Our local water is local, but it's not under our feet. So RPU, the water's under their feet. So they drill a well, water comes up, and they put it right into their system. Our Riverside customers are up on a mountain. They're on a rock. There's no groundwater. So our local water is acquired from other areas, and then it's transported through their systems, and then we utilize it. So it's local, but it's still expensive because we have to acquire those drops of water from someone else, and then we have to basically rent space in their piping system, in their delivery system to get it to us. So that costs money. Imported water costs us about $1,100 an acre foot. This local water costs us about $800 an acre foot, as in comparison to RPU that gets local water for $200 to $250 an acre foot. So our costs are all elevated because of our location and the way our system is set up. Next slide. So I've got Kevin Mascaro here as one of our panelists. He's our finance director. He's the one that calculates all these costs with his team and with Daisy, who's here also. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and let him talk a little bit more about the cost of service.
Great. Thank you, Craig. Good evening, everybody. Craig, you've done a really good job of explaining that we don't have this local groundwater in our Riverside service area. So as a result, 46% of our cost of every dollar that comes in, 46 cents, you could look at it that way, of every dollar that comes in from ratepayers, 46, almost half of it, is just to purchase that water. And that water is between 4 and 5 times more expensive than if we had access to a sufficient supply of groundwater. So right off the bat, every dollar, 46 cents goes to acquiring the water. Another 46 cents, that goes to maintain and operate our extensive and rather sophisticated water and wastewater system. It includes energy. It includes the testing costs. As you mentioned, we test our water continuously, all the testing and lab fees for that, different maintenance costs. We have a very well-trained staff that is highly certified, different certifications, and they have to have ongoing training. So those labor costs are rolled into that second circle there of 46%. And then finally, 8% goes toward asset replacement. What that is that's like a savings account. We know that all of this very expensive infrastructure wears down over time, and eventually it's going to need to be replaced. And when that happens, the need for replacement, we don't want to have to make rates go skyrocket to pay for these multi-million-dollar assets. Instead, we're trying to save a little bit each year to go by. As each year goes by, we save more money so that then we'll have sufficient reserves or asset replacement reserves savings account available to do that replacement. And then there's also a little bit of debt service, some loans that we have outstanding for the Riverside system. Well, now I'm going to turn it over to Daisy Banuelos, our financial analyst. She's going to spend a few slides telling you what you really want to know, and that is how will these proposed rate adjustments impact your bill? Daisy?
Thank you, Kevin, and good evening, everyone. So Western has improved our forecasting capabilities. So for the first time, we are proposing a 4-year rate increase, which does give our customers assurance for a longer period, making it easier to plan for future expenses. And I'll share the full impacts in a few slides, but in the first year, the average customer will see a bill increase between $2 and $4. If the board approves the increase, it will take effect beginning July 1st, 2021, and thereafter for the next 3 years. Next slide, please. So an overall median residential monthly rate increase of about $2 and $4 per month is being proposed this year, like I mentioned, depending on where you live. And there will be an increase of 3.5% to 4.5%, equating to about $4 to $5 per month in the subsequent years, 2022, 23, and 24. And so I'll bet that many of you may not be quite sure what sewer area you are in, or even if Western is your sewer provider. So to know more about how your bill will specifically be impacted, be sure to review your customized public hearing notice that was mailed out just last weekend, so you can see exactly what area you are in. And I'm going to turn it over to Tim, who will be sharing some changes that we may be making to your water budget that will actually reduce costs for you if you find yourself going over your water budget from time to time.
Thank you, Daisy. Can we have the next slide? So after 10 years with a 5-tier water budget rate structure, Western is considering changes to our structure that will ultimately benefit the customer. Before I detail these changes, I'd like to remind everyone how the tiered structure works. The first 2 tiers added together are considered in-budget water use. Western provides an individualized water budget for each customer based on the customer's specific number of residents and unique landscape size. If the customer's household size changes, they can always contact customer service and a representative will help modify the budget factors. Water that is used above the individualized water budget gets more expensive the more over budget a customer gets. Western currently has 5 tiers total and 3 over budget tiers. 5 tiers total, 3 of those are the over budget tiers. The revenue collected from the conservation components in tiers 3, 4, and 5 by law is used only in customer support programs. These are free efficiency evaluations, rebates for water efficient fixtures, appliances, and irrigation products, even rebates for replacing turf grass with landscaping that is less water using and more appropriate for an arid climate like ours. So, what are the changes we're making? We're making changes that are compliant with new state regulations and a change that will lower the cost of the over budget water use. Change number 1, the efficiency standards in California have changed from 60 gallons per person per day to 55. That sounds like a decrease, so how can that be good? Well, the water that is available in tier 1 is local supply. Because the state is lowering the volume of water that is considered efficient, more water will spill into tier 2. It's lower cost water, so it will mitigate the increase in tier 2. It allows us to not have such a large increase in tier 2. Change number 2, we're going to widen tier 3 so that it is bigger and it includes the existing tier 4 as well. So tier 3 will now be 54% in width as opposed to the current 25%. Change number 3, we're eliminating the most costly tier 5, which basically will lower the cost of the highest tier by $4 a unit. So in total, we are going to have 4 tiers instead of 5. With that, I'll turn it over to Craig.
Let me turn my microphone on so you can hear me talk. Let's talk about cost management efforts. So we take this very seriously. We take a lot of pride in looking for ways to save our customers money. And I've listed 7 different categories on here, so I'll briefly run through these. So meter replacement program. So this is interesting. Probably wouldn't land on any one of our customers' radar screens as a cost savings. We spend more money to install new meters. How does that save us money? Well, if you think about it, when a meter wears out, it's a mechanical device and it stops working. So as water goes through that meter, it doesn't register and it doesn't get billed. So no one pays us for that water use. Well, on the other side of that equation, Western had to purchase that water. We either purchased it from Metropolitan or we purchased it as local water from RPU or Elsinore. So we paid. So that cost has to be covered by all of the other ratepayers. So by changing all these meters, we're actually collecting revenue from the people that are using the water. So this was a really important thing. We called that water loss before. Our water loss was at 12%. Through our meter replacement program, we've dropped that to 3%. And that's why those numbers that Daisy went over about the impact to each customer's bill was actually lower than we had projected that it was going to be when we approved our budgets earlier last year. So that's a straight cost savings to all of our customers for implementing that program. Regional water partnerships are a great thing. We'll continue to do this. Our partnership with RPU, we have a partnership with Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. We have partnerships with Eastern. That partnership allows us to do this transfer with RPU to get local water through RPU's system. Now, we talked about it being more expensive than RPU pays themselves, but it's less expensive than Metropolitan. When I started here at Western 7 years ago, we were 100% imported water. Now we're 60% imported water because of these agreements. And anything that's less expensive than Metropolitan is a savings for our customers. So these partnerships save our customers money. Refinancing debt. In the middle of this pandemic, we went out and went to the debt market and we had our credit rating increased because of our strong financial stewardship. The rating agencies actually increased our ratings, and that allowed us to go to the debt market and refinance debt. The benefit to our customers is we're saving $9 million in interest payments over the life of that debt. And so that was a big savings for our customers. Project grants, we've accepted over $27 million in grants to help build the local projects. We continue to build local water supply projects. Anything that we can build, a project that develops water for less than the imported water cost, is a savings to our customers. So we continue to push there. And then controlling labor costs. We work really hard to control labor costs. We've shifted retirement costs away from the district to the employees. We've gone out and shopped around to lower our premium costs for benefits for our employees. Our employees actually even took an action earlier this year to defer merit increases because they didn't think it was the right thing to do, because they knew that our customers, some of our customers were struggling with, their jobs, and it wasn't the right thing to be taking merit increases. So they deferred increases. So lots of things going on in controlling labor costs, including really holding down the total number of employees. That's where we really save our customers, by not expanding our staff. And then operational efficiencies. We have a robust program internally where we're always looking for and incentivizing our employees to find operational efficiencies. And we can come up with nearly $13 million in operational efficiencies over the last couple of years that are saving us costs. So a lot going on in cost management efforts. And we're really proud of those cost management efforts. And it's really just purely for the benefit of our customers. Next slide. So let me turn it over to Sarah. Our outreach for this rate adjustment has been very significant. And I want to let her talk a little bit about our outreach program and important dates that are coming up. Sarah?
Thanks, Craig, and good evening, everyone. As introduced, I am Sarah McDonald. I'm Western's Director of Strategic Communications, and outreach to our customers truly is important to us. We've heard from you directly that you want to hear more from us. So it is something we're working hard to improve, but we know that that takes some time. I do want to remind everyone joining us this evening, feel free to send in your questions through the chat located on the bottom of your screen. When we do open it up to the panel, if you're having trouble working the chat feature, you can also give us a hand raise and we'll work on answering questions as they're received. So feel free to send those in as you have them. We know that nobody likes to see bills go up, and that's why it has been important for us to offer these sessions in addition to a variety of other outreach activities. So you really know what is being proposed and how to get in touch with us so that your questions are answered. If you do love this session, we have a few repeat performances scheduled. We have a session more geared towards Marietta residents next week on April 27th at 6 p.m. And we have 2 additional sessions for the Riverside service area, one on May 10th and one on May 12th, also at 6 p.m. So if you do have family, neighbors, or friends that could benefit from this information, be sure to extend an invitation their way. Western wants to also make sure that you're saving the date for our June 2nd public hearing. This public hearing will take place at 6 p.m. and we'll be offering both in-person and hybrid virtual attendance. We know during this pandemic, it's been really hard to connect with you, and everyone has different comfort levels in terms of, whether you prefer to meet us in person or be on Zoom. So we're going to be able to bring that to you in both formats. This June 2nd meeting, it is our formal meeting where our board will hear a final presentation from staff, consider these changes, hear any additional comments from customers or the public, and ultimately make a decision. Of course, customers and the public are invited to attend, make comment. Let us know if you're in support or opposition of these proposed changes. All of this information that you're hearing tonight, along with the ways that you can offer that formal comment, are on our website, WesternMWD.com/2021 proposed rates. You can access this page straight from our homepage as well. And it really is designed to be that one-stop shop for any information about these rate changes. In addition to this public hearing information, you'll be able to access all of these meeting recordings, past meetings, the board workshops where they really went through the nuts and bolts of the presentations, and some FAQs. So with that, I believe this concludes our presentation. So I'll turn it back over to our moderator, Shannon, who's going to help us lead through the panel through your questions. So don't forget, as we get going, you can submit your questions through that chat, or you can click, by clicking on the participant button, you can raise your hand virtually, or if that's a challenge, feel free to turn your camera on and wave your hand in front of the camera. We'll do our best to get to your questions this evening. Shannon? Shannon, you are on mute.
Don't you love that? It's inevitable, right? Okay, so let's get started in the panel discussion. Just like how Western's board meetings are conducted, we're really requesting that your statements remain short and on topic. This will just help us get through all the questions and comments. But before we get started, let's address the polling question that was listed as your #1 concern so that our panel can address it. So panel, why are Western's water rates higher than other water utilities such as Riverside Public Utilities and Eastern Municipal Water District?
Thanks, Shannon. This is Craig. I'll take that first one while the rest of the panel is warming up for other questions. We hear this question quite a bit, and it's a good question. Like I said before, all water districts have a different matrix of water supplies, and they have different costs. So as I've talked about, we don't have local groundwater under our feet, and we were formed to import water. So that's important. That's the basis of the organization. So our water supply has to be purchased from other people. So when you compare us to Riverside Public Utilities, for example, we're either importing water from Northern California or we're buying water through RPU's system, and we have to pay a significant fee to RPU, about $600 an acre foot to use their system, about $200 an acre foot for the water droplets themselves. RPU, on the other hand, only pays about $200 to $250 an acre foot to produce that water and put it in their system. They don't import any water from Northern California. So their water supply cost is $200 an acre foot. Our water supply cost is either $1,100 an acre foot or $800 an acre foot. So our supply costs are quite a bit more than someone like RPU. Now, if you go to Eastern Municipal Water District, they're more similar to us. They're importing water from Metropolitan Water District, just like we do. They have groundwater desalters, just like we do. So those costs are very similar, but they also have local water under their feet. And so that brings their melded water supply cost down, and they're actually lower priced than Western because of that. They're on the order of 16% lower for the average customer than Western customers. So every water district has different costs, and it's really dependent upon where their water supplies come from.
All right, that's a great answer. So another question that just came in is, why is a rate adjustment needed at this time? And how can you possibly raise rates during a pandemic when many are facing economic hardship?
Kevin, can you help me out and talk a little bit about the need of the rate increase at this time?
Yes. It is a very difficult time for many of the families and individuals that we provide water and wastewater service to. There's no doubt about that. As a utility, though, we're required to only charge the cost for providing service, for providing water and wastewater service. And so our costs are increasing. Certainly, Craig, you've talked a lot about the costs of water that we acquire and have to purchase from Metropolitan Water District, or have it wheeled through, transported through Riverside Public Utilities System. All of those costs are going up. Chemical treatment, energy significantly going up. So even in the midst of a pandemic, of course, we all know costs continue to march on and grow. And so if we didn't increase our costs at this time, and instead maybe dipped into our savings account, all we would have to do is that then later on, we would have to raise rates even higher in order to get back on track. And that had occurred a couple years back in the drought. And we ended up having to propose some pretty significant rate increases the year after that drought period. So that's why, for good financial stewardship, this is something that we're recommending that the board consider.
Let me add on to Kevin's answer. We've seen this in the water industry. Those of us who have been around for a while, we've seen this time and time again. Political boards sometimes make political decisions. And when we look at Metropolitan Water District, they have 37 board members, and sometimes they make political decisions. And they went for 5 years without raising rates, and they weren't keeping up with the cost of their service. And so there was a huge boomerang effect to all of us. We're their customer. Western is their customer. So when they finally recognized that and said, we have to adjust our rates, they gave us a rate increase of 14%. So that's a big rate increase. 9 months later, they gave us an increase of 21%. It took two enormous increases in 1 year to catch up with the true cost of service. So we don't want to do that to our customers. We've heard time and time from our customers, especially our business customers, we don't want to see a roller coaster on rates. We don't want it going all over the place. We want slow and steady. And so the proposal that we're going to present to our board at the hearing is slow, steady increases. And in fact, I think a very positive element of those rate increases is we live in a cost world that's going up at 4% or more. And our initial rate, as Daisy pointed out, is 2%. So we've actually been able to hold down our rates to our customers above what that actual cost has been increasing at because of our financial stewardship and some good things that have happened. Now, let me also answer the first part of your question, and this is important to us. How can you do this during a pandemic? And Kevin talked about, well, costs don't know pandemic. You know, costs continue to go up. But I have a little different perspective on this. We have been very concerned about our customers that have been impacted by coronavirus. And as everyone's heard, the state has a non-shutoff policy. Well, our board of directors was ahead of the governor, and our board of directors instituted a non-shutoff policy before that because they recognized the difficulty that some of our customers were going to be in. So we're well aware of that. I report every month to our board about our delinquencies and our past due amount. And we have spent an enormous amount of time trying to find sources of federal money and state money to help our customers out. So we continue to make that push. That money's finally starting to flow into the region, and more money will come, but that's to the benefit of our customers. So right now, the impact to our customers that can't afford, and they've lost their jobs and they've lost their income, we've been very, very fair to those customers. We're not charging them for water. They're not paying late payments. So they're still getting all of their water. So we think that we're treating those unfortunate people that have been severely impacted by the pandemic very fairly. And we continue to look for ways to help get them back on their feet in the future.
And Craig, can we go ahead? I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you there too, because we can go ahead and talk about a little bit about our assistance, our customer assistance program that we have in place to be able to help those that are really in need of those types of funds for, and the work that staff has done to put that extra money aside to help what we expect to be a greater number of need this year than in past years. If we could go ahead and talk about that just a little bit to allow our customers that information.
Sure. Tim, would you mind helping me out a little bit and talk about our budget process last year?
I'd be happy to. So last year, in advance of the pandemic, during the budget process, we knew that it was going to be tough. So our board had the foresight to do a couple of things. Number one, they increased the amount of money available for low-income assistance by 400%. So they made it available to all of our customers that qualified, and they increased it from, I think it was $25,000 to $100,000. The other thing that the board did is that they knew that it was going to be a potential budget impact, so they planned ahead and they budgeted $600,000 for delinquent accounts, so that it would not have a profound negative impact on the budget. It was planned in advance. That doesn't mean that someday we won't collect that money. It just means that it was planned into the budget. Our hope is that the customers will be made whole by federal assistance and state assistance, but we did plan ahead for that.
And the impact to the customers by doing that fiscal planning is we're not having to raise rates because some customers can't afford to pay their bill. That's not falling back on the customer's shoulders. We're gonna work really hard to find other money to fill that gap, but we're not. This rate increase that we're going to propose to our board has nothing to do with trying to recover any costs because of the pandemic. It's strictly driven by cost increases in water supply and energy and other things that we've highlighted earlier.
Greg, would you mind if I jumped in a little bit here?
Sure.
Great. So, we do know that it's a difficult time, and in addition to sort of these budget planning items, we've also been working really hard on behalf of customers to get access to the relief funding that's coming down from the federal government and through to the state. So you might have heard in the news that the federal government's issued some COVID-19 stimulus packages and things like that. Well, we know our customers have been struggling, and we want to get that money so that we can help cover those past due balances and make sure that we're able to move forward in the coming year out of this pandemic. So we're working really hard on your behalf at all of those local, state, and federal levels so that we can get access to that funding. On top of that, we're coordinating with the city and the county for funds that have been distributed and trying to get information out to our customers about those programs so that you know how to access those funds. So I did send in the chat if you need assistance or want to learn more about some of these programs, whether it's payment assistance, payment planning, or what Western's doing to advocate at those levels. Give us an email, give us a call. I put that information in the chat for you to access.
Thanks, Sarah. So we have a few more questions that have come in. The next question up is, are there separate billings for water and sewage? And if not, what percent of the rate increase is allocated just for sewage?
Kevin, you wanna lead that answer?
Sure, be glad to. We have customers, about 24,000 water customers, and about a third of them are also our sewer customers. And those sewer customers, if they're in Murrieta, could be going to Eastern Municipal Water District's treatment plant or to a plant that is administered by Rancho California Water District. And then up here in Riverside, that wastewater or sewage could be going to our Western Water Recycling Facility or to, through in our La Sierra area, to another plant. And this slide that was just put up really gives a great picture. So if you look on the lower right, 3% of the rate for La Sierra and for what we abbreviate as WRF is what the rate increase is there too. So it's between $1.50 and $2. And so for Riverside with water, it's about $2. And that's why when Daisy introduced this slide, she mentioned that a typical median residential customer would see between a $2 increase if they're water or $4 if they're water and sewer. I think, did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that was pretty thorough. So another question that's come in is what percentage of financial reserve does Western maintain?
Well, our finance director knows a lot about our reserves. It's a good question, and I'll ask him to answer it. We'll answer the question. I don't know what percentage. We can talk about the amount of reserves we have, but I'd also like him to hit on the importance of the reserves and why they're required and how that benefits our customers. Kevin?
Yeah, gladly. Let me first give a definition of reserve. I'd like to equate that to savings or a savings account for an individual or for a household. So that's what we usually mean by reserves. That's a nice accounting term. And the board has adopted a cash reserve policy. Actually, they did many years ago. And what it does is it asks that we maintain an operating reserve in each of our service area funds, an operating reserve of between 3 months and 6 months of operating expenses. And that's pretty much an industry standard. It's a good amount to have set aside. And what that reserve in that operating reserve is there for is if you have an unexpected one-time expenditure. An example that I've shared with some folks is that we had a well go down in Murrieta that required, in essence, being replaced. Well, that forced us to have to buy more expensive imported water from nearby Eastern Municipal Water District. Well, we didn't change our rates as a result of that. What happened? How did you pay for that extra cost of water? We had to draw down reserves, but we knew it was a one-time sort of a situation. We just needed to wait a year or two for the well to be replaced. And so reserves are really good to have on hand for those emergencies. I liken it to a household too. When your revenue exceeds your expenses, you try to set aside money every month in your savings account. Why? A couple of reasons. One might be for a planned expense. We want to go down to, we want to have a vacation, someday. We want to set aside money for a vacation, or the kids need money for college, or I'm bound to have to pay for, new tires on my car. So there are planned expenses. We have those as well too at Western, but there's also unplanned expenses, right? The car breaks down. There's a medical issue that requires a lot of cost. So as a government agency, prudent financial management truly dictates that we make sure we have money set aside and on hand available when those one-time expenditures hit us, and then also to set aside money for future known expenses.
Kevin, thank you. The other thing that President Denstad asked us to address in our last meeting is days of cash on hand. So this gets back to the reserves, and we had our credit rating elevated. That was really important because it allowed us to borrow money less expensively and saved us a lot of money. Well, a lot of that rating increase that we get is because of our reserves, and it's because of the amount of cash on hand. And so they have a formula, the rating agencies have a formula, and the healthier your reserves, the stronger your credit rating is and the lower your borrowing costs are. So it's really important that we maintain healthy reserves. And it's really important because of all the emergency needs and operational needs and pipeline replacement needs that Kevin was highlighting, but it also benefits the customers in our ability to borrow and hit the financial markets and be very successful in the financial markets.
Well, and I want to make sure too that Craig, you're generous in saying the fact that it saved customers a lot of money. Let's be real here. It's millions of dollars by improving our credit rating and our ability to be able to borrow at a lesser rate and be more competitive in that market, so more people see our stability and we are able to float those bonds. And we had a huge turnout at this last bond refinancing. It literally saved millions of dollars for our customers for the future funding. So just want to emphasize that point.
Just one more point of interest is I think when we went to the bond market, we could have sold 8 times as many bonds as we sold. That's how attractive the investment was in Western bonds.
Wow. So we have another question that came in, and it starts off with a comment and then followed by a question. This person wrote, "I commend the staff for foregoing merit increases, but you mentioned a cost shift to the employees for retirement. What retirement system does Western participate in, and how much of that is driving operational cost increases?"
Yeah, Kevin, you're again back to the accounting side. Kevin and his team are the ones that deal with all of these costs. You want to talk about the PERS system?
Sure. So the PERS system is the Public Employees Retirement System, and that is run by the state of California. And so Western, along with many other government agencies in California, have their pension program through CalPERS. And what the other item that was mentioned too, as far as shifting costs to our employees. So for the longest time, Western would pay not only the employee, what's called the employee share toward an employee's retirement pension program, but also the employee's share. So what we call both halves of the equation. Well, maybe it was probably about 5 years ago, our board decided to start to move that employee share to the employee, which makes a lot of sense. And so that amount was 8% of the employee's compensation of their salary. And they started at 2% the first year, then 4%, then 6% the next year, and then finally at 8%. So, today, for example, Western employees pay the full 8% contribution toward their retirement program.
Okay, so another question that's come in is, after the current rate increases reach the full term, when will we start to see a new set of rate increases?
So the way that Prop 218 works is this 4-year rate increase. The last year of this rate increase, we could continue that same rate on forever. So if we do another cost to service study like we did to determine the need for this rate increase, we'll do another cost to service study nearing the end of that 4-year period. And in that, we analyze the need for additional increases. So that's the time that we determine whether we come back to our board and go through this 218 hearing process again and move forward with propose another set of rate increases to our board.
Another question that's come in is, there are other ways to cut costs. Western has high salaries compared to the private sector. What is Western doing to contain those costs?
Tim, you want to help me out on this one?
Always happy to. So Western has a number of ways that we contain costs. It's actually in Western's culture to look for increased efficiencies. Every employee is encouraged to find efficiencies throughout the district. We have very small token reward programs where an employee who comes up with a new way of doing something, a more efficient way of doing something, they will submit that. And for example, they may get a reward of $50 or $100, but it's for something that saved $50,000. In the last few years, we have been very cost conscious And our operations team has gotten very competitive at finding new ways to do things in a more efficient fashion. And in our operations center, in the last year alone, they have found ways to increase the efficiency of the operation of our pumps and motors. They have found ways to prolong the life of our pumps and motors, which has saved us on an order of about $1 million a year.
Well, let's also talk about the salary side of things. I think that was part of the question. So we have to be cost competitive in the market to retain employees and attract employees, but we have to be very careful about that. And to be cost competitive, we go to the market and we do research and we benchmark our salaries against our comparator agencies. And those are the people that grab our employees away from us. And those are the people that we have to recruit our employees from. So, you know, in our industry, you can't be below your competitor agencies, or you can't keep the talented staff that we need to do all these programs. You know, our staff is very highly educated. They're highly trained. They're CPAs in the accounting department, in the engineering department. They're licensed, trained professional engineers. Our operators have to have state certifications. You know, you can't just walk in to Western. You have to be prepared. Very, very educated staff. And so we have to be very competitive. And so we do get knocked sometimes for having high salaries, but you know, we run a very sophisticated business here. You know, this is a $130 million a year business with 160 employees. And it takes a lot of skill, and we have to have very high caliber employees that are able to produce water for our customers every single day. Every time you turn that faucet on, water's coming out. And that takes a lot of planning by a lot of skilled employees and a lot of great operators to make sure that that happens every single day, no matter what, no days off, no blackouts, no brownouts. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of effort. So, you know, we understand the comment about salaries, but we also know the need to have very highly skilled people working here.
So to piggyback on that, someone wants to know, how does Western spend the money they already collect from customers, and why do we need to pay more right now?
Well, I hope we've been covering that since we started this presentation. I think, you know, I've been talking a lot about where your costs go. I'm not sure what else to say about that. You know, we're living in a 4% cost increasing world. And, you know, if we're not matching that, then there's going to be a huge rebound effect on our customers. And I talked about Metropolitan and that roller coaster ride that we've had at Metropolitan as their customer. And then we have to figure out how to charge our customers given their roller coaster ride. So I understand no one wants it now, but all these costs are going up. The pandemic doesn't slow down the cost increases. And we think it's really important that we continue to track those cost increases so that we don't have any shocks for our customers in the long term. And, you know, we don't think it's right to pass on a problem to our children and our grandchildren in this industry. So we need to pay our fair share as we go along.
And this is the last question that I have in the queue. This question is, how will customers benefit from an increase such as this?
Well, any volunteers for that one? Sarah, you want to try that one?
Sure, Craig, I'd be happy to. While nobody likes an increase in their bill, it's really critical that we be able to meet our costs so that we can deliver customers that safe, reliable, high quality water that you depend on every day. Our teams, our systems are working 24/7, 365 days a year so that you always have water, whether you're using it or not. It's also important so that we can maintain our system now and for future generations and be prepared to weather whatever is thrown our way, whether that's an emergency. I don't know if any of you had been tuning in last year when one of our state-operated pipelines was damaged and cut off our supply of water from Northern California. We were able to continue providing you water because we maintain the system, because we've diversified and have local supply sources. So again, these rates really make sure we're only charging you the amount that it takes to deliver that safe, reliable, high quality service. That's our commitment, and that's what we're here to do. And that's really the benefit that you get from our service, is so that you can have that water. You can trust the tap when you turn it on to drink it straight from the faucet. You can jump in your pool, you can water your lawns. And that truly is the benefit of our service, the value of our service, and the reinforces the importance of making sure our rates keep pace so that we can do that for you.
And I'll add a little bit more on that, Sarah. That was an excellent answer. But I think the reality factor for Southern California is important. And sometimes I hesitate at saying this, but we all live in a desert, and it is very dry. It's 100 degrees during the summer, and we're able to have flourishing businesses and communities and neighborhoods because of our ability to move water around. Without water, we wouldn't have the economy that we have in Southern California. And I think that that's important. Southern California has made, and us as customers, me as a customer in my neighborhood, you as customers in Western's service area, we invest heavily in water. And we do that because we live in an extremely arid region, and rain doesn't fall here. Rain falls in Northern California, and we have to move it down here. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to recognize that we're very fortunate to have the weather that we have, but living in Southern California comes at a cost. You're going to pay higher water rates than you are in other parts of the state or in other parts of the country. It's like moving to North Dakota and your heating bills go up. Well, of course they go up. It's cold all winter. It's kind of the same thing living in Southern California. So, I know the customers don't like a rate increase, but there's an investment that has to be paid to live the lifestyle that we live here in Southern California.
So another question that just trickled in, how do new housing developments impact the amount of water needed versus the fees these new customers pay?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm surprised it took this long to get to it. So whoever put that in, good for you. We tackle this in our 411 meetings when we talk to customers. But growth is an interesting challenge for the water industry. So we are always planning ahead for growth. And growth could be new development. It could just be simply that our customers stop being efficient with their water use and they start using more water. We have to be prepared for that. We don't control development. We don't control growth. We respond to growth. So the counties and the cities, they determine where things are going to grow and what's going to be built. We have to provide water for it. So our water resources grow with the area. So we have to be prepared for that. So we're always prepared for that. That's why we continue to develop additional resources. And it's great to be a member agency. Metropolitan has enormous capacity for additional flows. And so that's a great safety net that we have. Now, as far as the cost goes, you have to expand your system or grow your infrastructure for those new customers. That's paid by the new customers. So in your neighborhood or in your business, you've already paid connection fees that accounted for your own growth that you caused to our system. So everyone came in here and everyone caused growth, right? So that was good growth, right? But now there's bad growth because we don't want anyone else to come in, but they pay their way. So we're always looking for more resources, but they pay for their additional infrastructure. And that's how we develop connection fees, and everyone pays connection fees, whether they're residential or commercial. And so they're paying their fair share. And it wouldn't be fair to charge our existing customers additional fees for new people to come in. They pay their own way as they come in.
And Craig, I'll go ahead and add on something to that too. So the cities in the county and perhaps my colleague on the board, Mr. Gardner, who has a tremendous amount of experience coming from a city council on this issue. The cities are mandated to have to put out, as well as the county, to put out a general plan that they have to do and are required to do for their zoning and land use for every 5 years. And so Western does have staff that participate in that process so that we have at least some knowledge and some foresight to see what exactly it is that they're planning and making any accommodations or changes so that we can do an anticipation and not actually use a crystal ball to try to predict what's coming to us in the future. So we do try to anticipate and look at those, and we do actively participate in those plans. And I don't know if my colleague on the board has anything to add into addition to that, but that's kind of you know, we're not the land use agency, but we certainly want to know what's going on around us and what's anticipated and how their zoning is going to affect and impact us overall as an agency. So, Mr. Gardner, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
There's not a lot to add. I think you covered it well, but I think the underlying point is if you are a development that causes growth, puts new demands on our system, then you pay for that. It's not, that cost is not borne by the existing ratepayers. So new growth pays for its own water supply, and then you pay the cost for the commodity. Everybody pays the cost for the commodity. The cost for the commodity may go up over time as there is more demand and you have to acquire more expensive water. But the actual infrastructure, the pipes, the pumps, the storage tanks, all of those things that are necessary to serve a new customer are paid for by that customer.
And Craig, one more comment. Our professional planners, our water resource team is in the middle of that planning. They're already looking out for the next 25 years. And next month, they will bring the urban water management plan to the board for adoption, which does prepare us for the next 25 years.
And that's a state requirement. Every agency has to do that. Metropolitan Water District does that. They take all of our urban water management plans and they accumulate them together to create their own. So there's a huge amount of planning that goes into this fabulous water system that we have in Southern California, because we don't want to run out of water. We want to be prepared, and we're out in front of everyone by 20, 25, 30 years in what we're doing. And you know, we get people that say, well, why don't we just bring in ocean desal? That's where we need to go. There's unlimited supply of ocean desal. Well, that may be where we get someday, but I'm not ready to go there yet as a water manager, because that's 3 times as expensive as buying imported water. And, you know, 10 times, 20 times as expensive as local groundwater. So, you know, there's all sorts of options to continue to meet the needs of growth, but we're very careful about doing it cost effectively and doing it at the right time and not doing it ahead of time so anyone's paying extra.
So what if a customer is not on Western Sewer? Will septic customers have to share the increase of sewer costs?
No.
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 So we got a positive comment that I thought was worthy of sharing. This person said, we appreciate turning on the tap and getting water. So thank you for your service.
Well, we're proud that you can do that every single day, no matter what. And that's our commitment. And we, 160 people in our organization will tell you the same exact thing. They're all working for that.
No, absolutely. And you know what, Craig, I want to highlight something that happened yesterday at yesterday's board meeting too. That's a testament to the professionalism and the staff that we have in place and all those highly skilled individuals. We ended up getting a very nice return for our insurance policy of over $200,000 because of our safety record, because of our risk factors, and because of our employees taking care and time and effort to do their job and perform in a safe manner and make sure that our agency doesn't have any claims outstanding or injuries or anything else, accidents, anything that could have possibly happened. So that is a testament to the highly skilled staff that we employ and the effort that they put into their job every day to perform it safely for the customers that they continue to serve 365 days a year. So kudos to you guys for that return to the customer's money for that $200,000 policy return. So just wanted to kind of highlight that and ring staff's bell a little bit for that.
We take safety seriously, and it's, you know, we're not trying to get rewarded, but we got rewarded. So that was a very nice surprise that came back, and it's a benefit to our customers. That goes right back into our revenue stream, and it'll help defer costs.
And it doesn't look like we have any other additional questions coming in. Just one last call out in case anybody else has any comments or questions they would like to submit in. But as of right now, it looks like you have answered everything the audience has asked.
Great, Shannon. Before we break, I'd like to give all of the board members an opportunity to see if they would like to make any additional comments. And I appreciate that our board is here. Our board is going to be considering this rate increase in June, and I know they want to hear what the public is saying. They want to be fully informed when they make their decision. They don't want to just hear on the second, you know, something that comes up and get caught off guard. I think it's great that they're here and they're listening. That makes them better informed so they can make better decisions. Board members, I'll open the forum up to you.
I just want to make a comment. I just want to thank the staff for doing an excellent job of providing all this information to the board members and the member of the public to have the information to know what's happening in the background of the daily work they do during the pandemic. Done. The staff for providing having this meeting today and providing excellent information. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Risby. Director Torres, any comments tonight?
Hi, everyone. I just want to say I want to thank the staff for their presentation tonight. It was actually very, very well done. The panel discussion was very well done also. I think, yeah, even just the questions have given me a lot to think about. So I hope that made it worth it. I'm excited for the other two sessions. I hope that we get more turnout then, but whether we did or not, even if just having one person made this meeting worth it. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Gardner, any comments this evening?
Yeah, just real quickly, I'll echo the thanks to our staff for putting this together and all the information you've provided. But I would ask our customers and members of the public that are on the call if they have any ideas for how we can better communicate that these meetings are happening. And if they're interested, we really would like to hear from you. There are not a large number of public participants in this call this evening. I know that Sarah McDonald and her staff have worked really hard to publicize them. Several of the directors have used their own social media to try to publicize these meetings. And we're still not getting a lot of people turning out. As everybody has discussed, nobody likes to see a rate increase. You don't want to spend more money for something. But we really do want to hear from our customers, and we want them to understand what it is that's being proposed and why it's being proposed and how they can participate. So if you've got ideas, please let us know. You can comment through the district website, WMWD.com. You can email the staff in general, or you can email any of the directors individually. We will, if we get a request for information, we're going to turn around and give it to staff. So it might pay to email staff and copy a director or directors if you would like. But we really do care. We want to understand what your thoughts and concerns are. And if you've got suggestions, we're very interested in those. So thank you for your participation, and share ideas if you got them.
Thank you, Director Gardner. Really appreciate that. The only comment that I have this evening is just to say thank you, staff, for your presentation. We really appreciate you putting this together and being very comprehensive and very easy to understand for the public to be able to ask the questions. I think there were some excellent questions that were asked tonight, so we really appreciate their participation. And I just want to give a shout out. You know, utility workers have not gotten the same type of highlights that a lot of the healthcare workers and first responders did. And utility workers were at the job every single day to make sure that the water keeps flowing, that the sewer keeps processing. So we certainly are appreciative of every one of you that come to this job every single day to make sure that our public is taken care of while they were all stuck at home, stranded in their house, looking at the same four walls every day. So we certainly do appreciate that. And we appreciate everyone's time today. Again, today is Earth Day, so I hope you were able to take a moment and thank Mother Earth and do something kind for the earth today, and hopefully plant something nice that will flourish in your garden. We look forward to your participation at our public hearing that's coming up on June the 2nd. Mr. Miller, do we have any other business that is pertaining for this evening? Otherwise, I am going to be looking to adjourn this session tonight.
We have nothing else to discuss. I just want to thank everyone for giving up a portion of their evening to spend with us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We certainly do appreciate your participation, and we wish you a very nice evening. Enjoy, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.